I'm Chris Lee, joined by Blake Lovell. We both work at southeastern14.com. Blake, coaching news has been all the rage. I mean, we've got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. We've got playoff talk, we've got championship games, but coaching searches are taking the cake right now. And big news at LSU yesterday. The Tigers hired Brian Kelly for a boatload of money. His record at Notre Dame was either 113-40 or 92-39, depending on what you do with those vacated wins. Your thoughts on Brian Kelly going to Notre Dame?
Yeah, it's an interesting move, I think, to say the least. Doesn't look like it was a particularly clean one, a clean breakup, it seems, when you look at it's never the case, though, I guess, when you look at these college coaching searches. Yeah, it looks like it was caught everyone off guard, including his assistants. If you read some of the reports, and that's never a good thing. Players getting texted late nights. Yeah, so that's always, I think, the fascinating part of all these moves. But I mean, it'll be fascinating to see how he does there. Expectations obviously at Notre Dame are very high, so he understands the pressure of needing to win at that level. But at the same time, I think there's a difference playing at Notre Dame in a place where you can make your own schedule versus the SEC, where it's only going to get tougher from here with Oklahoma and Texas coming in a couple years. But if you want, a guaranteed path to the college football playoff, if you win the SEC, you're in. And quite frankly, if you're the second best team in the SEC, you have a good chance of getting in too. So, and as we know, there's a good chance the playoff will continue to expand from here. So, not a bad move, I think, from that standpoint if you're Brian Kelly.
Yeah, it seems like an odd culture fit. It's just hard to picture him down in Baton Rouge, but he's won everywhere he's been. He's won at, Cincinnati and Central Michigan. And so there's that. And plus, the last three coaches at LSU, some might argue two of them weren't very good, have all won national titles. So I have a
Yeah.
feeling it's going to work down there.
I was going to say, I mean, that's like Ed Orgeron or not, whether you're an LSU fan, you want him there or not, they won a national championship, and that's what you're measured by. And Brian Kelly didn't win a national championship at Notre Dame. So now it's like, okay, well, now you've got to figure out a way to do that at LSU with a much more competitive conference. And I mean, I just, you look at it, and I think, again, when you consider the moves in the SEC that are coming with Oklahoma and Texas, I think that the strength of the league is only going to get even stronger. And it's going to be a challenge, but you're putting yourself in a position where you're in the best conference in the country. And so for him, I mean, and we say this all the time, like when you're at a place for a long time, he's been there, Notre Dame, 11 years,
Mm.
12, something like that. And so after a certain point, if you can get out and find a good gig and get paid a ridiculous amount of money, yeah, maybe it's a better option for you.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see how the perception of whether being in the SEC is a detriment or an asset towards winning a national title. You made the point that Brian Kelly never won one at Notre Dame, which historically is an all-time top five program. I don't think anybody would argue that, although you might say, the best years, although Notre Dame has certainly been very good under Brian Kelly, certainly the peak was probably, around the early 90s when they last won a national title, whatever year that was. But what I'm getting at here, Blake, is you have one coach that runs away from a place where they don't have a conference. They can schedule themselves right to the verge of the playoffs every year, and runs into a conference where you can either win a national title and be 6-6, as Ed Orgeron proved, depending on what's around you and the circumstances.
Yeah.
And you saw Lincoln Riley. Allegedly, he did not want to go to the SEC because he felt like it just harder to win there compared to a place like Southern Cal, where, let's face it, the Pac-12 right now, not the most competitive it has ever been. It's just very interesting to see how these top 10 coaches look at situations very differently because they did exact opposite things in this case.
Yeah, they did. And I mean, I completely understand Lincoln Riley's decision. I mean, just, I know Oklahoma fans aren't thrilled about it, but I completely get it. Like, why wouldn't you? Given where that conference is headed. And again, is that Oklahoma's fault or is that the Big 12's fault? Like, I mean, there's a lot more, I think, to that you look at, his decision. You're going to Southern California and, tradition. We talk about that program too. And your path to getting in the college football playoff looks a lot better. I think if you can rebuild USC back up to
Yeah.
where they were. And I mean, I completely get it from that standpoint. When you look at Brian Kelly, it's an interesting move. Like I said at the beginning, like I think it's interesting. I don't think by any means is it a home run hire. We always use those phrases. I mean, it's a great hire. I think when you look at it on paper and just the history and the records and all this other stuff, but I can't say that I am 100% confident that he's going to go down and turn LSU into a yearly national title contender, just because I think we've seen the SEC eat a lot of good coaches up.
Yeah.
The pressure and everything that comes along with it. And again, because he has been at Notre Dame and their expectation is to win a national championship every year, he gets it. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how he fits in, culture-wise and just with the schedule that they're going to play. And that's not to knock Notre Dame's schedule. I mean, they play good teams every year because they have a chance to do that. I mean, they can schedule it that way. But I'm intrigued. But I think there's still a lot to be determined on that.
Yeah. Case in point, off the top of your head, see how good you are with these things. How many SEC teams finished above 500 in the league this year?
Georgia, Alabama, Texas A&M, or is it Georgia, and Alabama?
No, it was those two, Kentucky and Ole Miss.
Yeah,
Four
Kentucky
teams
and Ole
finished
Miss.
above
There you go.
400 in the league
Yeah.
this year. Now, you had several that were right at 500, including A&M. How many schools do you think felt like, through their fan bases, should have finished above 500 in the SEC?
Oh, right. I mean,
do you think Auburn feels like it should have finished above 500?
Right? Maybe all but one, I think.
Maybe all but one. And I think you would say that South Carolina and Missouri might understand that they're in a little bit of a rebuilding mode, especially Carolina.
I don't know. You say that. I don't know. Like I'm not 100%.
Now they wouldn't think that. They wouldn't think that they should be there historically. But you might parse that a little bit by saying, given the talent situation they inherited. I mean, I don't know that I saw. Maybe you did. I don't know that I saw South Carolina fans saying, "Hey, 8-4 this year, and we're going to finish second in the East." Maybe you did. I'm not disputing that, but point taken either way, right? Expectations are going to be there. If you're in the SEC, and the thing that I always say is the sum of all wins and losses, no matter how good or bad the conference is 500. I mean, if you're Brian Harsin right now, you're feeling the pressure at Auburn. He may want out of there for reasons I wouldn't blame him for. That's just life in the league, and it's going to be very interesting to see how Brian Kelly handles it because, frankly, he's never been in that situation, right? He's been in the MAC. He's been with Cincinnati, whatever league they were in at the time, I guess the American. And here we are. Now he's going to find out what life is like in the big boy league of all big boy leagues.
Yeah, I don't think it's by any means a lock that he's going to go in and just record-wise, I don't know that he's going to be able to. I mean, Notre Dame, especially the past, 4 or 5 seasons, I mean, he's won, 10 or 11, 12 every year. Again, like you said, it's much harder to do in the SEC, and we can see how quickly a team can go from the top to the bottom. We can see how quickly you can go from, being at the top and then going down quickly, aka Florida, and some of these other teams. It's very relentless on what you can kind of compete with week in and week out, and I think it's going to be pretty fascinating to see how quickly he'll be able to get them right where they want to be, because again, it's not like it was that long ago that LSU just won a national championship. So but that's kind of proving the point, is that you can fall down pretty quickly. And I think if you're talking about, again, from a pure accomplishment standpoint, the hire makes complete sense, right? Look at what he's accomplished. But I do think it's one that I'm just not there yet, and it'll maybe take a little time to see how he adapts to LSU, I think.
Now, I'll give you 2 reasons that he made the right decision, okay? You can argue others that were wrong, but I'll give you 2 things that are points in LSU's favor for Brian Kelly to jump the way he did. First of all, academic restrictions nowhere close. In fact, he got wins vacated because of academic misconduct at Notre Dame. That's been a while. I don't remember what the deals were there, but at LSU, you're not going to run into stringent academic standards, number one. Number two, you could throw a dead cat and hit a player down there. in Baton Rouge and New Orleans. I mean, Louisiana per capita has got more players maybe than any place in the country, and you don't have both those things in South Bend. In fact, it's quite different where he is now. Not that Notre Dame doesn't recruit nationally, but part of recruiting is effort and travel, and it's going to be much easier on him in both regards at LSU.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, again, from his standpoint, I completely understand. Like, I get it. I mean, it's, again, when you've been somewhere as long as he's been and at Notre Dame, the expectation is what it is at this point. And, their path to getting in that conversation or being equipped, prepared maybe for the college football playoff was not perhaps what it would be, if you're an LSU or if you're an SEC team. And we've seen that over the years where just the competition you play week in and week out sometimes. Just the grueling schedule, it can hurt you, but it can also help you a great deal once you get to that point. So I think, from his standpoint, it makes sense. And, I mean, he's getting paid a lot of money. So, I hate to say it, but money talks. And if anyone tells you otherwise, they're lying because he got a lot of money to go take this job. So,
yeah, I don't even know what to think of the coaching market and salaries anymore. It's $9.5 million cheap. Mel Tucker just got that at Michigan State, right?
For anyone that ever says that players should not get a dime for anything, please just point me towards these contracts and let's see the details.
And the transfer portal too. Coaches can hit the portal anytime they like.
Please. He texted his players, at night. And I'm not knocking Brian Kelly for this, although I think a lot will, but he's not the only one that's done this. He's not, and he won't be the last. So, getting this, 9 years, $95 million. Yeah, come on, let's be serious here. So,
well, and here's the thing. You can look at it and say, boy, that's a lot of money to pay a coach. Although with Brian Kelly's track record, I don't know that it is. Now, if you're Mel Tucker at Michigan State, I have some questions about that. That may end up being a great thing. But it's almost to the point, I was thinking about it this morning. With coaching salaries, it's almost like it's not can you afford to pay it, it's can you afford not to pay it. Because it's like free agency in pro sports, right? If you don't pay over market value, you're not getting the guy, right? I mean, I don't know that they've overpaid for market value, but the point I'm trying to make. It's almost like not like you almost can't look at it in terms of how much money you were paying. It's almost like, okay, what happens if we don't?
Yeah, right. And I think that's the discussion we'll continue to have when you kind of look at how all this stuff plays out. And yeah, I mean, he was not a name that I would have thought would have been in the conversation at LSU. But, when you're at a job like Notre Dame, but who thought Lincoln Riley would be in the conversation at USC, right? So, yeah, I think that's one where the coaching carousel, still undefeated, never loses. So,
any parting thoughts on LSU and Brian Kelly today?
Yeah, make sure you win a national championship next year. That's it.
Right.
I mean, that's it. So there's your goal. It's pretty easy. Like, you just draw it on the board, national championship, like next year, like in the year after. And I'm not, that's not being in any way sarcastic. Like, that is the goal now every single year. That's what we talked about. Like when Ed Orgeron won the national championship, it can be the best thing that can happen to you, it can be the worst thing that can happen to you, because once you do it, the expectation never goes down from there. So I can't imagine when you're paying a coach this much money, anything less than beating Alabama and winning the SEC and winning a national championship is not going to be acceptable within the next 2 or 3 years. Like, I mean, I don't think that's, again, that's not being sarcastic. It's just the truth. So, yeah.
And there's only so many to go around.
Yeah. There's only one from what I hear each season. So.
Well, you used to be done differently. There used to be many moons ago. There used to be multiple national titles. So, but there's only one now, and there's only one Southeastern 14. And anyway, thank you for watching our video today. We'll be back with more. In fact, we're about to do a basketball power rankings video. So if you're an SEC Hoops fan, we will have that posted shortly. He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. Thanks for watching our video today.